Hi, hello. Today we start out in a very important spot, and we have an incredibly important task to go along with it. Nah, wait. I feel like we've done this before. This feels familiar. Many thoughts. Disclaimer, this is a recreation of what just happened because, well, OBS decided to crash and I lost about 15 minutes of recording. Oh well. The woes of an update messing everything up. Pretend it's a theater play. I mean, hey, good news, the storage system is mostly set up, at least when it comes to the chests themselves having been placed down. What's missing now is us deciding where we want to sort everything and then obviously setting down the redstone. Good news is we have more than enough space, I hope, for the amount of items that we're gonna place. So I think this is when I'm gonna go and consult a little sketch to figure out how we want to organize this. Anyway, the reality is that, oh boy, moving an inventory, it sure is an experience, huh? And by inventory, I mean storage system. Considering it's been a good... How many episodes has it actually been? Wait, I don't remember. Has it been 11 or 12? Is this the 12th? I think it's the 12th. Either way, we all are pretty used to me and my indecisiveness at this point, I think. The amount of times I reorganized this entire space is... it's a bit ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. There are physical sketches of me attempting to organize this and then resketching. I did very much realize, and very quickly so, that despite this place looking as large as it does, this is far from enough for everything that I have planned. Especially considering I would actually really like to not have to build another storage system ever, if possible, because this takes way more time than I would like to spend on something like this. However, I genuinely don't think that that's going to be an issue because these spaces around the base are honestly only going to grow smaller over time the more we progress, whether it's going to be through minecarts, whether it's going to be through like a cute little sulfur cube monorail, or just through a good old elytra. So I think as long as we're going to have access spots for those quicker methods, we're going to be fine when it comes to the future and continuing to use this system. Maybe some kind of skylight or an entrance leading through the river outside could be really, really cool. I'm actually not sure if it still counts as a skylight if there's no glass involved, because obviously if we want to fly through it, we can't block the path using glass. But either way, something like a hole or like an ever open door. Ooh, what if we have like almost like a seaside cave, like a riverside cave, since the blacksmith is gonna be on like more or less of a hill, and we're definitely gonna have to terraform this because it looks horrendous from the outside. Maybe something like a cave entrance, something that's easy to fly through, would be really, really cool and make our lives so much easier in the future. I'm already daydreaming about having an elytra, and I think that's going to be the big thing we're going to be dealing with. I feel like I keep alluding to it, but you know, in the future, maybe next episode. Also, I will definitely say I adore golems, and especially the copper golems for the storage system, etc., because it just makes life so much easier. You just have the little golems sorting everything rather than setting up 50,000 different item filters. It is tedious to set up, right? Because you need to fill every single slot in every single chest and then pray that they're going to sort it right, which is exactly what I've been doing this entire time as I was ranting about my skylight. But nevertheless, I think I prefer this. Sometimes I get to a point where my own categorization confuses me. Take the crimson roots as an example. Technically that should be a nether block, right? But on the other hand, we have a chest that's specified for little shrubs and co, and part of me is like, obviously I should add it here, right? But it's also kind of full already, and it's also a nether block, so I guess I should put it to the nether blocks, but part of me really wants all of the shrubs and greenery things to be together, so I don't know. This is why it's been taking so long. Help? Nylium isn't excluded from this dilemma, by the way, because I feel like that should be right there next to the other dirt, but it's a rock. so is it really a dirt? But it's a covered rock in that kind of style. Can you tell why? Can you see why it takes 80 years for me to finish an episode? We'll be right back. Just as expected, the place is full and, well, we still got quite a few chests up and above. I think it's time to dig. It definitely is time to dig, and I'm so glad that we did go through the trouble of getting this beacon. Now, the only downside is I don't think digging is going to be that interesting to watch. So how about we go and just do a little bit of, building from the past, as I'm going to spend the next while down here cosplaying as a dwarf and just going diggy hole to expand the storage system. We'll tune back in later. We'll see how the digging goes, right? Nothing more soothing than placing a few blocks. I will say I am still so incredibly proud of this tree that we built in the previous episode. I think it looks so incredibly nice, and I really want the vibe of the small little island that it's sitting on to match the atmosphere of the surrounding area. And as much as I like the grass texture in the... I'm not sure if this is a mega taiga or just a taiga, but in this specific biome, because it has a bit more of a bluish tint to it, I don't think it fits the tree necessarily. Especially considering we've established a bit of a podzol, like brownish, heavy tone for the soil on the island, and I think it would be important to carry that over for this little spot as well. Especially considering, again, it is a tree. Naturally, all of the leaf litter is going to fall down, it's going to decompose, so podzol is a good idea. Now, I could spend a lot more time talking to myself and for you guys to listen to me talking to myself about all of the decisions that I took in this build specifically, and I did very much try to just think about wetness levels, right? We are surrounded by a river after all, so the mud is a good choice. It's the wettest block we have in the game, especially the wettest looking and sounding block in the game. And mixing in the mangrove roots works so well for the purpose of showing the tree's root system permeating the ground. Another option for that would be to, for example, place invisible item frames on the ground and having, sticks, for example, placed into them. We're already hinting at roots using the granite and especially the granite slabs, so I think using muddy mangrove roots in this case just enhances that visual even more. And a brief intermission from our sponsor, who is me, by the way. It's me whilst I'm digging. As you can tell, we are in fact still mining. However, we are a lot faster. I definitely didn't go, mine so we could mine better. Either way, would you look at that? We now have an actual fully activated beacon, and it was totally worth spending about 2 hours trying to find additional iron. Why is it that iron is never available when you need more iron? Anyway, not a lot of progress on this side, but I sure hope that building me is doing a lot better than mining me currently seems to be doing. We'll check back in a few. What better way to distract ourselves from digging 1,000 blocks than to be placing a bunch of leaves on the ground? I will say, I absolutely cannot wait to hopefully eventually get more ground coverage blocks. Also very excited to go look for a cherry biome at some point, because I would like those cherry leaves at my disposal. And at this point, it's one thing to surround the tree, because naturally that's where most of the leaf litter would fall. But at this point, we gotta make it random, just so it looks a little bit nicer and not too inorganically placed. And of course, being organically inorganic, or rather inorganically organic requires all of the turning around and reassessing and taking a step back and hoping that the final random result actually looks random. I want this space to be a space that people who would theoretically live in this village would naturally like to go to and to spend some time at. And what better way to achieve that than with a small bench? Sitting opportunities are as crucially important in real life as they are in the creation of a vibe, if you will. And of course, we gotta keep the through line of using the granite blocks as our little roots. And more ancient debris. Always, always more ancient debris. I am so in love with this block. The bench weirdly still feels a little disconnected from the tree despite literally being built into the base of its trunk and roots. And I think, I wasn't sure if I was going to like this look just because the chains are so different. But I think I kind of like it because it has the almost illusion or like the idea, the intent of a hanging bench, and that's really cute. You know, that did kind of spark an idea. What if we build a hanging bench? The tree is relatively tall after all, and I'm pretty sure we can figure out connecting some chains to the upper leaves. Doesn't have to make sense, right? They're gonna just be hanging from random leaves in the air. There's gonna be zero support, but it's gonna look pretty, and that's all I personally care about. Admittedly, this bench's view is perhaps a bit abysmal. It's just gonna be looking at the back of the inn, perhaps even the kitchen area. But at the same time, it is a hanging bench, which is always quite fun. And it adds more clutter to the view, which, again, is all I could personally hope for. A small amount of finishing touches later, and we've got both benches. Now, the real question is, would it be too much to build a third? I kind of want to build a third little bench. Apparently I've gotten obsessed with building benches. It's the last one for now. I pinky promise. I'm gonna say our tiny little tree seems to be popular enough for that drown to not attack. Never mind, he found a way. You know, sometimes it's so nice to turn on the shaders and just look at what you've built. Oh, I never realized how cool the underwater looks in this. Just looking at this is making me extra excited for whenever vibrant visuals will finally come out. Absolutely cannot wait for that. And since building one tree was very fun, how about we go ahead and build a second one? And here we are. We have our second tree, including a small bench that uses armor stands. This is such a cool design. I saw it online, and it's beyond wonderful. What can I say? Good tree. I quite like the addition of the light of the lantern hanging down. It has a bit more of a whimsical vibe. We have some buttons on the trunk and a generally much more warm palette with the acacia wood and the buttons on the tree rather than the gradient into tough and pale oak that we used in the previous one. And I know we're all wondering what Dwarf Me has been doing this entire time, so let's check back in for our second intermission. We are absolutely getting closer to finally having carved out absolutely everything that we need to have carved out. Haste 2. is such a game changer. I did not expect there to be such a huge difference between Haste 1 and Haste 2. Sure, part of me did wonder why it took so much longer for me to break the blocks and why it wasn't an instant break, the way I sometimes see in videos. But, yeah, I didn't expect the difference to be quite this stark. Very, very glad to have invested that additional time, especially for future resource gathering moments. My tough and deep sight both are, yeah, let's say the storage is beginning to dwindle slowly but surely. So knowing that I'll potentially be able to just bring a beacon along and not have to worry about any of that is quite relieving. Anyway, back to the building. I don't even know what we're building at this point. Is it? I'm not gonna spoil it. Have fun. Enjoy. I mostly used this time to add the final finishing touches around the mostly entrance area of the village. The shoreline looked a bit empty, if you will. We already, there was an attempt to liven it up by adding a few boulders and rocks on the other side, and of course modifying the entire riverbed, but there still was a sore lack of vegetation and greenery and all those small little bits that make things look alive. And one of the easiest way to fix that is by just adding a bunch of reeds, and those are easiest done by adding glass panes and brown candles on top. This is one of those moments in which I would really love for Minecraft to add a few more dyes, because I would love to have another shade of brown, for example, either lighter or darker, maybe more pastel, to add a bit of variation even in these colors, but at the same time, that is such a small finicky detail, it barely matters. Or more vegetation and plants, I'm most definitely not gonna say no to that. Now, unfortunately, glass panes do have the tendency to obviously connect to one another when placed next to each other. That's the entire purpose of the block. But at the same time, it feels a bit too random to just have them evenly spaced in diagonal lines. And an easy way to fix that is by just adding and using the new copper chains. It's not a perfect fix, naturally, and unfortunately the copper chain variants of the reeds can't exactly look or peek out of the water any more than this, because at that point you would notice the chains a bit too much. But it's an easy way to make the reeds look a lot denser than they actually are. I almost wish either the glass panes or the copper chains would be placed in slightly randomized positions on the block, the way, for example, bamboo, etc. are, but I also very much understand why that's not a thing. Chains especially kind of very much need to be placed at the center every single time. Desire paths are something I've always quite adored in real life, and I just had the realization, why not add them into Minecraft? This was a path that I frequently took to get from the path to, well, the storage system area. It kind of disappeared when we built the houses, just because it was too blocked off, and then at that point the cliff was too steep for me to walk on. It doesn't have to be disappeared. We can just add it back, so that's what we're doing. And I already took some care to figure out what kind of blocks and tones and shades and textures I'll want to have in the actual rock of this area, just by using the coral blocks, and also just adding a little bit of that tuff back into the area. Even though the nether portal is going to be the only actual big remaining ruin, I still want pieces and bits of that tuff color to peek out throughout the entire village to serve as a constant reminder of the alleged ancient civilization that used to call this place their home. And that did not work. Anyway, we're done. At least I hope so. Surely that's going to be enough space. I think at this point we could almost have 3 stacks, which I kind of hope we're not gonna need, but it's good to have nevertheless. At this point, I don't think 14 chests are gonna be enough. Let's go and consult the remnants of our old storage system and see Pretty sure, yeah, okay, that's gonna be enough chests. That's for sure gonna be enough chests. Actually, let me consult the doodle so I can make sure everything is gonna fit the way it should. Something that I realized is that, well, I surprisingly don't have that many items. So some of these chests, well, those are bad examples because those are fully filled, but some of these chests aren't fully filled, and because I don't want the golems to just end up placing random blocks in there, I think I'm just gonna use stone buttons to fill up every single slot that isn't yet fully filled. And then over time, that way we have, you know, the options to adjust more and more as we want. Because I know I want the pale moss carpets to just take up the lower half, and I know I'll want the full moss blocks to take up the upper part, but clearly I don't have those items right now. I think that's maybe, hopefully, a good compromise. We'll find out. And we're back in our scheduled storage system intermission. I need more iron. I genuinely thought that the last mining session had gotten us more than enough iron to last for a lifetime, but clearly that was not the case because I am out again. And, well, the rest of the upper section of the storage system also doesn't have any kind of hoppers, so well, it's time to be using that pickaxe again. You know, I really thought that maybe getting an iron farm would be a bit too over the top, especially considering well, I thought I wasn't a redstoner, but maybe we're gonna go get an iron farm. Maybe not today, because there's other things I need to do today and finish today, mainly in the name of that storage system, but I think building an iron farm is very much in our near future. Well, that might not be iron, but I'm also very much not oh wow, that is a pretty big vein, huh? 6 iron, iron. Yes, iron is blue, as we all know. I think I might honestly be too far down in the mines for iron to really spawn, but now the diamond part of my brain has been activated, and that one's difficult to deactivate. Ooh, nice. 8 diamonds. But iron. Where is the iron? I should have brought any kind of torch. Guys. I can't stop. I fully thought that fell into the lava. That was scary. I did not enjoy that feeling. Ah yes, let me go mine for iron, because clearly that's the thing I want. It stares directly at my inventory. I'm not gonna say no to diamonds. Bring them to me. I don't even need them, but they're so shiny. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna finish this little leg of the cave and then go back up, because clearly there is no iron here. Clearly I lied about leaving the cave, but also look, there's iron. So, you know, it's fine. Oh, there's more diamonds. I'm never leaving this cave. I think I might just have found a trial chamber. It would be kind of funny if this was the same one we've already been in. I feel like it is the same one we've already been in. It's so close to home. Which honestly would be wonderful, because that would mean we don't have to run back all the way. Oh my god, it's a different one. Okay, I don't have the inventory space for all of this. Oh no. Oh no. Where are we? Oh, that's a lot of creatures. Oh shit, I don't have a shield. Help, help, help. I kind of really want to explore this trial chamber, but my inventory does not look like exploring a trial chamber right now. Okay, it's time to dig up. I'm gonna grab those real quick. A little bit of crafting later, and we finally have that piece at least. I also realized this is a really good moment to actually test, like trial test the sorting system a little bit. Let's see, I'm gonna have to fix this access point and make it look prettier, but I mean, most of these items already have spots down here. We have the dripstone there, including like actual pointed dripstone, etc. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to work. That is terrifying. Obviously, not the fastest sorting system to have ever existed, but I think I'm fine with that, personally. With the amount of time I spent lounging around in this base area, I don't mind spending a few minutes waiting for my stuff to get sorted. I've just been sitting here in the same spot, waiting for the sorting to, you know, take place and for the golems to finish up and just doing other things at the same time. Somehow the sound is really soothing. I don't know if it would be as soothing without the beacon, but the mixture of the beacon and the chests opening, it's very white noisy. Anyway, let's see what's happening. So I am Confucian. Okay, so upon further inspection, the issue doesn't seem to be their inability to access the upper chests, because we clearly see them doing that over and over again. I guess they just get confused about which chest to access first, so I think they do unintentionally, well, unintentionally from my side, access the overflow chest before they access the upper 3 levels. I don't know how to fix that right now. That is a bit of a mysterium, especially considering that they do sometimes sort them correctly. Maybe it's when there are too many of them. I'm beginning to question whether the issue is that there are too many golems, whether it's something else. If anybody in the comments has dealt with golems and this type of storage system before and has any ideas on how to fix this, please do very much let me know, because I am new to this. Okay, well, extremely interesting turn of events, actually. This section of the video was supposed to be me talking about, well, all of the things that I tried for the storage system, and, well, especially with these little guys over here. And it was supposed to be me explaining why it didn't work. I went as far as to go into creative and rebuild all of the modules that we have using the copper golems to kind of have a showcase of, hey, this is step A, this is step B, this is step C that I tried. And that specifically, right? Let me find this. Well, that was not intended. The gate. The gate was gonna be the point where I stop everything and just go, hey guys, I cannot figure this out. It is not working. And then guess what? It worked. It just worked. For some, to me, unexplicable reason, it worked. I don't know what I did wrong in the survival version. I feel like I did the exact same thing, but apparently I did not. Clearly I did not. And I tried it out. I tested everything. I added more golems to it to make sure that me using several golems in the survival world wasn't the issue, but everything seemed to be working perfectly, and they are sorting things as they should at a relatively rapid speed. In other words, what we're gonna do, or well, not we, I am gonna do this off camera because I've spent entirely too many episodes trying to work on this storage system. I'm just gonna go ahead and do whatever we just did in this creative world and copy paste that by hand, block by block, into survival. And then we're hopefully gonna have a working storage system for next episode. Because at this point, my eyes are aimed at the horizon, and at a very specific end that one does experience in this game, at one point or another.